Okay, so good afternoon, everybody. So sorry we are a few minutes late today. We had a bit of a technical problem, so we were just a few minutes late. Thank you for joining me, and it's so good to have you here. My name is Wendy Ologe, and I'm the founder of the Intentional Parent Academy. If this is your first time joining me live, apologize. It's not in our character to be here 1 minute after two. All right. Please, if you're joining us for the first time, simply write in the comment section, put a hashtag and say first time joining you. And please do let me know that you can see me and that you can hear me. Thank you so much for joining me again and again. I really do appreciate you. If our Tuesday live, what we call the Tuesday TIP Church. Yes. So we are here every Tuesday at 2 p.m. sharing on different aspects of parenting. And today, the aspect of parenting we're looking at is yelling. How can you begin to look at the different aspects of your parenting from how to parent with calm? Dr. Emmanuel, I see you, sir. Thank you for joining me. All right, invite your friends, your family, YouTube community. Can you hear me? If you can hear me, let me see your comment in the comment section. And team, please help us re-announce that we are live. Thank you so much. I can see that we already have 28 persons watching on YouTube. Amazing. Loud and clear. Thank you so much, Dr. Happiness. I see you. And thank you, everyone, for joining me. So today we're looking at 5 ways to get your child's attention without yelling. How do I get my child's attention without yelling? You agree with me that yelling is a big deal in our community, right? Yelling is it's a everywhere actually, not just in our client. Yelling in parenting is a big issue. And one of the things that I have found is that it's like a circle. It just continues. If you're going to start yelling, if you were yelled at, you just find out that you will become a yeller, your children will become yellers, and then a circle just continues. So once you were yelled at as a child, of course, automatically, somehow, you pick up yelling because that's what you understand to be the language of communication in your home. So one of the things that we're doing in this month is teaching on parenting with calm. And part of how we're doing that is via these Tuesday live classes and also through our challenge, the most subscribed to challenge ever. We've had almost 10,000 people go through that challenge called the No Yelling Challenge. All right. We opened registration for that yesterday, and the first level of discount ends tomorrow. So we're looking at this yelling thing, and part of why I am very certain that it's possible for you to parent without yelling is because I have been a chronic yeller before, and I have been able to move from not yelling to the place where from yelling to the place where I am now, not yelling. All right. I don't see why I have to yell to my child anymore. I don't see the reason. I know where I'm coming from. So when people say, oh, it's not possible, oh, we cannot do it, and all of that, the truth of the matter is you can if you're committed to it. My mom is watching me right now on this stream. I didn't hear her yell. It's an interesting thing. My dad was the yeller, not my mom. She didn't have to yell to pass her conversation, to pass her information. Did we listen to her? Absolutely, we did. I think we even listened to her more than we listened to the yelling parent. So you need to understand that it's not in the tone of the voice, it's not it has a lot. How you say what you say, all right, has a lot to do with how your children would also internalize that information. So today I'm sharing with you 5 things that you can do instead of screaming. So do we have yellers in the house? All right, I've been there, so don't worry. Do we have yellers in the house? I've tried parenting with yelling. It didn't work. The truth of the matter is that the way I parent now have yielded me much, much, much more better results than the way I had parented in the past. All right. Some time ago, I found myself yelling because I had an opportunity to parent a foster child. And trust me, it was a disaster. So when people say my children don't listen except I yelled. We have people here like that. My children never listen to me except I yell at them. Well, people like that listening to me on the stream today, yeah? Yeah, I used to actually think that way. I actually used to think that if you don't yell, children will not listen. So when I see those kind of conversation, all right, I know where you're coming from. So I understand you. I appreciate that, what you want to do is actually to exert your energy to make, pass information or pass, on the instruction. But I'm here to submit to you today that yelling doesn't work. The more you yell, the more your child will resist whatever it is that you're trying to teach them. And unfortunately, the yeller, also gets affected. Now, studies have shown that yelling can actually cause you high blood pressure, can cause you urinary pains, can cause you a lot of anger issues, can cause you anxiety. There are a lot of things that you do not want to, even heart attack. There are a lot of things that you do not want to find yourself in. Yelling can actually, do that to you. We're currently reviewing my book called From Yelling to Calm. I don't know if there is a copyright in my study. Called From Yelling to Calm. And, there are a lot of, stuff that have been seen. Medical issues, yes. We're currently reviewing this book in the inner circle. It's called From Yelling to Calm. All right. And it was my journey of how I moved from being a yeller, to be a calm parent. And because I also found the issues, so when I realized what yelling could do for me, to me, and then apart from what yelling is doing to me, there was also the place of what yelling was going to do to my own children. I didn't want that. The resultant effect is we having children who are, timid. We having children who can speak up. We, part of, in this part of the world, we don't have a lot of children who speak up. We don't have a lot of children who do not have self-esteem that is really battered. Something very interesting and funny. So my daughter was telling me about a teacher who marked her, below the scores that she was supposed to actually get. And then she walks up to the teacher and asks the teacher that, please, I really would like to know how I failed this because I didn't understand that. I thought that I got it right. The teacher got upset and said, oh, you're questioning me for asking me why you failed something. Anyway, eventually my daughter insisted, and eventually it was found that the teacher was wrong. Part of the things that our children do not have is the ability to actually stand up to an adult, whether the adult is right or the adult is wrong. And it's part of our parenting system. We raise our children. Because if your child is going to say no to someone outside, your child is going to be able to say no to you. So if you raise a child that you're constantly screaming at, it's all about you, you're constantly controlling, the tendency that that child will also be outside and also struggle, all right, will become very high. Your child will not be able to stand up for themselves. Part of what is happening today is even in adults who are, married and all of that, they take anything because that's how they've been raised. So you internalize whatever, and it's okay. It becomes fine. We need to watch it. Yelling at your child actually just conditions your child. Now, when people say, oh, my children don't listen, it's simple. It's because you have actually programmed their mind to only listen to you when you yell. I also used to be there where I felt if you don't scream, they don't listen to you. No, it's conditioning. I was reading something about how you train a horse. And I was reading where, it was said that when you are training a horse and you use a low tone to call out to the horse, that anytime you call out to that horse with a high tone, the horse won't listen to you. So if you teach that horse with low tone, when they were learning how to listen to you, your voice, the horse will only be able to internalize low tones. If you scream, the horse will never listen. And then likewise, if you train the horse with high voices, with like yelling, you will find out that any time that you want to call out the horse and you talk in a low tone, the horse will not be able to listen because the horse is not is not acquainted with low tones. So however you program your child, that's how your child is actually going to be able to listen to you. The question is, what program have you installed in the brain of your child? Part of what we're going to be doing in the No Yelling Challenge is to teach you how to uninstall that program. But before then, these are 5 ways that you can get your child's attention without having to yell. Not yelling is not easy. You know, a lot of people actually say that, oh, it's so easy. What, you know, when we teach intentional parenting, people think we're saying permissiveness. People think we're saying, oh, so we're saying don't hit on your child, don't yell at them. People actually think we're saying don't correct your child. People actually think we're saying don't discipline your child. No, that's not what we're saying. We're saying that there are better ways for you to actually do this than just doing the things that would actually destroy your child further. You know, many of the times we've argued that we turned out okay. And for every time I've asked the question, who really told us that we are okay? When you look around you and look at what's happening, how is that okay? How is it okay that a child is going to be looking at someone that is abusing them and the child can't stand up? How is that okay? How is that okay that an adult will watch themselves battered, beaten, and they cannot walk out of that environment? How exactly is that okay? How is it okay that you have a child, a grown adult is abusing that child right under your roof, and the child can't stand up and say, no, I don't like what you're doing to my body? How is that okay? It's not okay. We're not okay. We're not okay because all of this program has actually affected us. That's why my daughter's teacher felt that why should she come up to him and ask him why, what happened to her test scores? And because she understands that, yes, I can actually do this respectfully, then that's why she was bold enough to walk up to this man to say, I understand that you've marked this, sir, but I think I would need further explanations. A lot of us went to university. By the time the lecturer come up to you and say, oh, you failed, many people simply just slept with the lecturers because they couldn't question. We were conditioned not to question the things that we see. We were instructed. We were not raised. We were instructed. And then even the people that, were teaching, that's why in our generation, we have a problem when a child walks up to us and actually asks us questions that just require simple answers. I remember right back then in the university, I learned how to stand up to adults. My dad taught me. And I remember that a particular lecturer had given me an F. I'm an A student. And I walked up to the lecturer and the lecturer said, no, you failed. I called up my script from the Senate. You had the ability to do that. Many of us don't even know that we have the ability. I ended up scoring an A on that course. Many of us do not know that we have the ability to do that. Many of us are even too afraid because we have not even been taught in the home to be able to stand up to our parents. So one of the greatest gifts you can give to your child is actually the ability to actually look up to you and say, Mom, I think you were wrong and I want to ask, why this happened. Is a gift. Very important. At a glance, it looks normal to raise your voice during a stressful conversation. It looks normal. So a conversation is going on, and you don't scream. People actually think that it's okay to be screaming, all right, where things are happening. The conditioning, the way we were raised, unfortunately, one of the reasons why I'm fighting the way we were raised is that we are translating these things, intentionally and unintentionally to our children. We're telling our children not to look at people in the eyes and where they are having conversation. That's actually a wrong way to have a conversation. So someone is having a conversation with you and you're telling your child, why are you looking at me in the eyes? Meanwhile, the rule of communication actually requires that you should actually look at the person, make an eye contact for there to be communication. But because we have had all of this conditioning, we've taken it down and we're unintentionally passing it. We have a problem when a child asks why. We have a problem when a child, looks at us. We have a problem when a child questions. We feel uncomfortable when things happen because the learning center, the ability to think for most of us was shut down when we were young because that's how we were raised. So you need to begin to ask yourself, the first question, all right, you need to ask yourself is, how I was raised, is it actually okay? So before you come out and make the social media noise, oh, we turned out okay, they did all of this to us, after all, we didn't die. We didn't die physically, but we died in many ways. We died in so many ways. So when you're constantly yelling at your child, you are actually killing your child without knowing it. There are a lot of other ways to actually get your child's attention apart from having to yell. Learning to model calm behavior, all right, will help you and your child to connect. How are you modeling the kind of behavior you actually want your child, to have? We're on holiday today. Many children are comfortable in their house. I know many parents that have screamed a million times. And when you are asked, you say, oh, these children will not let me. Oh, it's holiday, they're everywhere and all of that. Part of what we're teaching you is actually how to also manage your triggers, how to manage the environment, how to also raise your children to be disciplined. Because discipline is not that yelling and beating. So I've seen a lot of children who are being yelled at, who are beaten every day, but yet they have zero discipline. They're untrained. So training actually is beyond. Training is beyond your yelling and your beating a child. Training actually requires that you do the work. And the work goes beyond the jumping up and down. Structure, discipline. That's what discipline is. So we need to understand that the yelling that you have employed over the years isn't going to serve you. It's not going to serve you. You are destroying your child more than you can ever imagine. Some children today do not even believe that they are good enough. You and I, there are a lot of people who cannot stand up to their boss, who cannot stand up to a lot of things because we were raised not to actually engage the thinking part of our brain. Before you could even say Jack, your parents have shut you up, have shut you down. So we need to begin to learn how to model calm behavior, and that will help your child connect. My children have been home, and my children won't be here, and I'm screaming up and down, yelling, and all of that. It's not. But do I make my point? Yes. Have there been disciplined since? Oh yes. All right. Number one thing that you can do to get your child's attention, all right, is to take the opposite tone. The louder your child's voice gets, the softer your tone you use to respond. Now, let me tell you what that does. A lot of us have been taught violence. We grew up in a system of violence, in an environment where we have a sweet relationship with violence. So we just think that if it's not violently delivered, then it's not parenting. We have a very skewed idea of what parenting and discipline is. And we nurture this violence, and then when our children grow older, they become these same people that we are abusing today. So you need to actually look at yourself, ask yourself, was I raised in violence? If your answer is yes, then you need to actually begin to work on you. Because violence is a learned behavior. So even though I'm going to say all of these things, all right, even though I want to say, I'm going to say all of these things to you, if you do not understand some of these things that I'm talking about, you would still react the same way. Take the opposite tone. And I said that one of the ways that you can do this is when a child's voice gets louder, your voice gets softer. What you're actually doing for your child is that you're teaching your child, modeling exactly what it is that you want your child to do. So when you're shouting, stop screaming at me, stop, and then you create a battlefield. Imagine you're dealing with your teenager, all right, and you are arguing and all of that. Everybody is tensed up. What you need to do in that situation is to model the kind of conversational skills you want your child to learn. So as your child is trying to actually get agitated, and then you respond in a soft voice. I don't know who have ever tried it. Someone is actually trying to engage you in a conversation that is violent, and you are not engaging. The person backs down automatically. I remember one of those days I had gone to a filling station or something, I can't remember, and I felt cheated with the fuel that I bought. And I looked at them, they were trying to engage, scream, and all of that. I knew what to do. I knew the authorities to report to. I didn't need to engage them. And the more I tried not to engage them, the more I saw that their voices were coming down. Many of the times we actually think that we need to match violence to violence. Somebody is reading this book From Yelling to Calm and saw where I said in that book that the best person to use kind words on is actually the angry person. And person said, why? Why do you think the angry person needs to be spoken to softly? That's a motto in my home. In my home, we say that the angry person needs the kindest words. The angry person needs the kindest word. So when you're upset in my home, you see people actually coming to hold you or hug you or say something nice. So whenever we remember that the angry person is the one that needs the kindest words, every time he helps us. He helps us to actually take the opposite tone. So whenever it is that you try not matching violence with violence, you find out that the next person backs down. And even for adults, it works magic. When people say that you're not interested in engaging, you find out that they begin to actually find out why you are the Facebook. I had posted something that was, and one of the things I noticed was how the angry mob, as usual, came at me. People said words and all of that. I decided to use the other tone for them. And I tell you something, more than 100 people reached out to me to ask me, how did you get here to be able to respond to people who are that upset? The things they said should make you upset. But like I often say, kings do not throw themselves in the mud. When you know better, you would actually behave better. Thank you, Timmy. Soft words turns away wrath. That's what the Bible says. And these things that the Bible says is not just for the people around us, it's also for our children. All right? So that's one thing that you can do. Number two, you can actually become a broken record. Instead of yelling, try to repeat the things that you want over and again. Sometimes there is no room for negotiation on an issue. Sometimes you just, want to say it and then the child carries it. On issues like that, all I would require that you do is to use the calm approach. We're going to be breaking down the calm approach right in the No Yelling Challenge that is coming up on the 1st of May. So the calm approach, where you are able to actually use your all business tone, quietly repeat what you expect from your child. So I was talking to my son today and I wanted him to do something. And I said to him, can you stand up from there and go and take this in? He didn't do it. And I said it again, and then he stood up. At that point, I could take to yelling. But because I know better that that won't pay me, I decided to take to calm repetition, repeating the same phrase as many times as it takes. One of the things I had written in my book is you need to make an impression for you, for anybody to internalize the message. You need to make an impression for anybody to internalize a message. Now, for anyone to learn and internalize a message, you need to make an impression. And for you to make an impression, it comes from repetitions. For you to make an impression, it comes from repetitions. I hear quite a number of parents come to me and they say, I've been repeating, I've been saying it over and again. Yes, calm repetition can actually be a great tool to imbibe instead of yelling. All right? Very key. So when you use calm repetitions, the child will know how serious you are. In fact, I've overheard my son talking to his friend one of those days. And he said, my parents are not going to raise their voices, but you will just do it. They just have a way of, just sticking to their word and you just carry it out. These children can hear you. They can see you. So when our children go to a place where people are just screaming up and down, they're like, wow, you don't need to. So it's important that you remember that whatever it is that you sow, that is what you're going to reap. And this sowing has a time frame. I usually say that parenting is seed time and harvest. The seed has a time. The harvest does not have a time. So there's a time frame to whatever it is that you're doing, which is why I always talk about parenting. I say start now to sow the seeds, the right seeds that are required. Number 3, ask questions. Instead of yelling, you can take to asking questions. When there is room for negotiation, certain phrases can turn to an argument into a healthy back and forth conversation. All right? It is very, doable. So you could say, would you be willing to give this a shot for the weekend and see how it works? You could say, what time do you think? All right. What time do you think that you're going to do your homework and that works for you? You throw it back to the child and create a room for the child to also negotiate with you. The tool of negotiation and is an important one to parenting. Use simple short phrases. It's particularly helpful for children who have repetitive language issues or trouble focusing. So some of our children who have trouble focusing or even kinesthetic learners, you do not want to use the long phrases to actually keep confusing them. When you use short phrases to ask the questions, you are actually able to make better conversation. So ask questions. Ask questions. Everything isn't, oh, my way and all of that. Just ask questions. Would you like to do this after you're done with this? Or what time do you think that you can do this? So that can, open up a path for negotiation. Remember, I said that there is time for you to negotiate. Sometimes you don't have the time. And when you don't have the time to negotiate, you should use calm, repetitive phrases. If you have the time to negotiate, you can ask questions. It works wonders. All right. Number 4, be positive and clear. Being clear and direct about what you want is important. So when you're giving direction, instead of just screaming everywhere and just saying and snapping, for instance, your child is playing a game and is PS5. And then you go on and you snap, this PS5 belongs to everybody in the house. Maybe your child is just, clinging to it and is not allowing his brother to play. Instead of doing that, why not try saying, Emeka, I think I would like you to give your brother to play, the turn now. You're calmer, you're more positive, you're clearer. So when you go around the child, many of the times when you are yelling, your child isn't listening. Because yelling, the moment you start to yell, your child takes on a defensive mechanism. Every single one of us. When a friend is trying to tell you something and they start to yell at you, for instance, you shut down. And when you shut down, the first thing you're thinking is, how do I defend myself? So instead of the person to actually connect, the person is just thinking, I need to defend myself. I need to get out of this mess. So when you're yelling, the first thing your child thinks of is, how do I defend myself? How do I get out of this mess? Sometimes is your child lying so that they don't continue to, yell. You don't continue to yell. Sometimes they just look at you and shut down. So at that time, they are not listening to you. They take away the ability to listen. You just shut it out. Your child isn't going to listen. Your child isn't bothered. Your child is not looking, as it doesn't matter anymore. So you're just talking, you think you're talking to them, but the child is just wondering, what's wrong with this one? A child was asked, a preteen recently, whose mother who was doing a session with one of our with a teen coach that I know. And the child said, can you please tell my mom to stop yelling? When she yelled, I actually don't hear anything she says. I completely shut her out. Somewhere in my mind, I'm not listening anymore. So when the child, cannot defend you by answering you, for instance, the child will shut down. So that's that's a way to also protect themselves. Because that's how the brain is wired. The moment you begin to yell, the brain looks for a way to get out of the situation. So is it that the brain tells you to, lie and get out, or the brain would tell you to shut down and not listen? So the brain works to preserve the human being. So yelling, the brain can't comprehend it. The words they're not comprehensive. So you need to understand how this works. And I say all of the times that if you understand how the brain works, there are a lot of things that you would not do. All right. So you need to be clear and be positive. So instead of always saying that you always do this, you're like, no. It will get your child's attention. When you use your child's name when giving direction, this will get your child's attention and make your message even more personal. I have a set of twins. When you throw a message out there, you will now start hearing, it's you they're talking to. It's not me. It is me and all of that. So when you get it, more attention, you need it to be more, this thing. This especially, helpful for, children to comprehend a lot of things. So instead of snapping, try to be emphatic and try to be clear and positive about what you're talking about. Sometimes you're even yelling at your child. The child is wondering, what is this person even talking about? I don't get it. Are you following this conversation? And are you also getting value? If you are, let me see your comment in the comment section. Let me share you here the fire emojis and let me see you tag a minimum 2 friends to this conversation. Share the link. If you have done that, please just put done right in the comment section. Put done right in the comment section. Thank you so much. Thank you so much for repeating and for writing the quote. Thank you. I see you. Yes, yelling sparks the defensive mechanism in the child and shuts down the child from listening. Very important. A child that is being yelled at is not a listening child. An upset child is not a listening child. The child is not going to be listening to you. All right? Another thing that you can use instead of yelling, thank you so much. Thank you so much for sharing and thank you for sharing the quotes. Another thing that you should use instead of yelling at your child will be to make it fun. Sometimes all you need to do is to diffuse the intensity with some silliness. Parenting actually does a lot for you. So instead of yelling for a distracted toddler to sit still, so you can brush their teeth, you can try some gentle and firm nudging. You can just say, all right, so Emma, open your mouth. I need to brush it out. Or do you want some monsters to come and take it? That could be a way. So instead of, can you open your mouth? Can you open your mouth and just do that? Oh, da, 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 da. And you are just screaming. And for even a toddler, the toddler even just can't get it. That's, you know, that's you actually, you are actually trying to put, your child in a position where they are able to connect. Thank you so much for sharing. Or you can actually tell your child, when your child is all over the place and all of, you can make it fun and say, okay, so you know what? So pick up your toys and tomorrow you go to choose whatever it is that you want to watch. So many of the times, and I also want to say this, yelling is like a fire alarm. Part of what we are going to be teaching you in the no yelling challenge is how to use the yellow meter. There's something called the yellow meter. So yelling is from one, yellow meter is, from 1 to about 7, 8. So there's a yelling at level 1, level 2, level 3. We're going to teach you when it becomes, dangerous. We're going to teach you when raising your voice, when raising your voice is dangerous. It's going to teach you when, we're also going to teach you when you can actually, use it as a fire alarm. At what point do I really need to, yell to get an attention? At what point is a fire alarm? Fire alarm can be used once in a lifetime, twice in a lifetime. All right. So that's what it is. So if you're constantly yelling, it means that you're raising an alarm every time. And you know what happened to the boy who shouted wolf? The moment that child, you just say wolf, 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 and every time it was like, oh, okay, that's fine. All right. And the no yelling challenge, I know, has helped quite a lot of parents to actually break free from all of those things. All right. And I'm going to also give you another thing that you can do. One more extra. Take a break. If you feel like either of you is going to lose control, call it timeout. This thing applies to even your relationship with your spouse. It applies to your relationship with friends. Try something like, maybe we'll talk about this later, in 30 minutes. I do with my children. Few days ago, I still did with my daughter. I know there was a conversation and he was trying to get it. But she now said, Mom, I don't think this is a good time to have this conversation. And I said, yes, I think you're right. So we can have this conversation later. And when we're able to have that conversation later, we made a headway. Keep in mind that self-reflection can be, a tricky skill. So when you tell your child, just go and just, sit down and think about it. All right. No, but before, you're not going to tell your child to do it. You're going to teach your child, model it to the child. So when your child sees you model that behavior, even when you're in a public place, tell your child that the conversation can be on a pause. Discipline is not an emergency. When my children do things that when a public place and I want to talk about it or something I know it's going to spoil, I will tell them, so we're going to talk about this in the car. Take a break. Sometimes that timeout you're giving to your child, you are the one that requires it. You are the one that needs to take a time out of that conversation. Teach your children how to walk away from toxicity when a conversation is getting so heated up. Teach your children how to do it. Teach your children self-control, conversational self-control. And how do you teach a child that? It is by how you model it. You can't give what you do not have. And if you understand that discipline isn't an emergency, you understand that many of the times when you yell, you actually didn't need to yell. So for every time you actually want to yell, it has to be now. Ask yourself, All right. Ask yourself, do I really need, is this an emergency? Can I attend to it later? Can I do something? I see a lot of people, trying to embarrass their children in the airport, beating them, hitting them, screaming at them in public places. Discipline is not meant for a public place. So when you discipline a child in a public place, what you're trying to do is that you're trying to validate that you are actually a good parent. You don't need the validation of people. If you're doing what is right, all right, you would understand that you do not need the validation. You don't need people to hail you and say, wow, she just beat her child. No, you don't need that. Your child can actually be corrected and corrected properly when you don't make it an emergency. When you make it an emergency, you can't think through your process. You might even do things that you will regret. That's the truth. It's a lot of training. It takes a lot of muscle, emotional muscle, to be able to do what I'm teaching you. It's not something you pick up on the street. Quote me anywhere. It's not something that you just, pray yourself into. I remember when I used to pray to be able to not to yell. All right. It's not something that you need to pray yourself into. It's applicable to anybody. It's applicable to your relationships. It's applicable to people around you. These are things that you must understand. These are things that you must understand. For you to build valuable relationship with your children, you need to actually understand the things that you would need to do. Please, let us remember that all of these things that I'm sharing with you, it's only feasible if you can work on you. Which is why the No Yelling Challenge for the year, we do the No Yelling Challenge once every year. The No Yelling Challenge for the year is up and registration is up and running. The good news is it is only 4,999, but that's between Monday and Wednesday. The next fee, which is 5,999, starts on Wednesday. So the discounted fees is climbing every 3 days or so. So if you get to pay today, you get to pay 4,999. Part of what I'm going to be teaching you at the No Yelling Challenge is how to spot your triggers. Part of what I'm going to be teaching you also is how to create, how to, decrease the fire spots in your home. There's something we call fire spots. For some home, their fire spots is in the morning, dressing up. That's where the yelling happens. For some homes, the fire spots is in the evening, where everybody, your parents, where you are coming out and you're screaming from the gate. All right. So from that other part, it could be in the afternoon, it could be any time in your home. Part of what we're going to be teaching you is how to identify the fire spots, how to identify the peculiarity, all right, of that fire spot for your own home. And when you are able to deal with it. And the moment you're able to identify it, you will be able to eradicate it. And if you can't eradicate the fire spots, you will continue to yell. You will continue to yell. So there are a lot of skills, all right, that you would need to build around yelling, all right? And it is very, very important. Part of what we're also going to be teaching is how to create a system over conversational skills. Because there's something that, I started to learn recently, how to actually build a system around conversational self-control. I see that is one of the things that lack in many of the people around you. A lot of the times I'm talking with friends and I tell them I cannot say some things here. Can we take another time, or can we book another time to talk about it? It is very key. So these are part of what we're going to be doing at the No Yelling Challenge. The No Yelling Challenge starts on the 1st of May. You get 5 days of this teaching, and then you get 10 days of accountability. We have had Several parents go through the no yelling challenge, thousands, all right, 8,000 plus and over since the day of inception. The no yelling challenge was one of the very early courses that we actually started in the Intentional Parents Academy. So if you want to be part of this challenge, all you need to do is to put no yelling in the comment section. No yelling in the comment section. And the moment you put that, you will get response on how to register. If you're watching me on YouTube, please make sure that on YouTube you're looking at the description for you to actually register for this course, or you will look at the screen for you to see details. All right, I can see that some people also have questions for me. All right, please, if you have any question on this topic, this is a conversation that I particularly like because it's a work that I have worked. It's a work, it's one of the most difficult works for me. All right, it's a work that I have personally worked. So if you want to be part of this, you can be it. If you're in the inner circle, please reach out to admin to find out if you want to be part of the no yelling challenge, all right, to find out what you need to do. The fee changes tomorrow. All right, the fee changes tomorrow. It's not a flat fee. The fee is actually going to climb until it gets the original fee, which is 15,500. So the fee changes by tomorrow. If you're going to be part of the no yelling challenge, you want to make your 4,999 naira today. All right, so that you will be able to gain access at this rate. But if you decide that you want to give us more money by next tomorrow, it's fine. We will gladly receive it. And for every time that you give us more money, we're usually very fine. I will still deliver. All right. And for those who are asking, what do I expect? We are the expectation. There's nothing, just come as you are. Whatever expectation you have, you would see that that expectation is not even it's not valid. All right, we will give you the expectation. Okay, so from yelling to come was my first course in TIP Academy, and I'm so happy that I took it then. Thank you so much, Jamila. Thank you so much, Jamila. All right. Thank you for doing that. Somebody asked me a question. Where does the rod of correction come in? I love this question. The rod of correction, the rod, which is also why in the scriptures you saw the rod meaning the word. You saw the rod meaning thy rod and thy staff, they comfort me. So one of the things I have said about the interpretation of the scripture is sit down and think about it. Who our Heavenly Father is, how the scripture is, interpreted. And ask yourself, this rod of correction, what can it be? What can it be? Is a rod of correction a rod? So why are we not using a rod? All right. The rod of correction is actually everything you can use to actually discipline your child, which will not, consist of something that will, one, abuse the child physically, mentally, emotionally, in whatever way, and even verbally. Which is why that the Bible talks about a gentle word that turns away wrath. If God actually wanted us to actually just talk anyhow to our children, He would have shown us how to and why we should. So if you understand, I usually ask the question, if you are able to correct your children without having to hit them, yell at them, and still have a good result, will you try it? Will you try it? So if you have side by side, yelling at a child and beating them, not yelling at them and beating them, and then disciplining them to actually create a structure, and this one gives you a better result. What is the difference? How will you be able, which one will you take? So if I tell you that you can do it, all right, if I tell you that you can do it without you having to be aggressive, without any form of violence, and you will still have a good result, will you try? That has been my question. So the question is, provided you are able to teach your children what is right, right? Provided you are able to teach your children the values, provided you're able to discipline your children to become responsible. A soft answer turns away wrath. Thank you for that scripture. But a grievous word stirs up anger. It applies even to our parenting. It applies even to our parenting. All right? Is it okay to correct your child in public when he or she misbehaves, or wait till you are alone with him until you get home? When your child misbehaves in public, again, like I said, in the situation where you find yourself, many of the times it's not an emergency. You can pull your child aside and say, this, we're going to talk about this later in the day. All right? You need to be able to understand the difference between I am trying to correct my child and I'm trying to embarrass my child. Many of the times, the correction that we use is just let me embarrass him, let me show him. When children make mistakes, we try to discipline it, we try to punish them for their errors. We try to punish them for that's not the essence of discipline. The essence of discipline is to teach a child to learn. So if your disciplinary strategy isn't teaching your child, I don't understand it. My first experience with Coach Wendy was in the No Yelling Challenge last year. And I'm so glad I stumbled upon a Tuesday live session where she talked about it just like today. And it changed my life. Thank you, Dr. Happiness. Let me put that on the screen. Thank you for Dr. Happiness for sharing that. In the inner circle, Coach has made us understand that the rod is what you define it to be. Thank you so much, Jamila. The Bible doesn't mention it to be a physical rod. It doesn't. All right. So your definition, whatever it is that you want to define the rod, if you decide that the rod will be you putting structures in your home, that's how it's going to work for you. All right. It's very, 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 very key. Chidima said, I will disgrace you. Very important. So we need to actually watch the subject of discipline. We need to understand that aggression does not actually solve the problem. Violence is not the answer. All right. And I don't even know where we are getting the interpretation that the Bible said we should use a physical rod to hit anybody. Okay. And there are so many interpretations as well that I've also used this scripture in Deuteronomy. It says that if a child is stubborn, that you should bring the child out in the elders forum and stone the child to death. I don't know how many of us have actually stoned our children to death. How many? Do we have anybody who have decided to stone their child to death because they are stubborn? It's in the Bible. If you read your scriptures, you understand. So don't go and take it. If you want to do it in the literal form, ask the Holy Spirit for interpretation. Because if you want to actually put that in the literal form of the things you're reading in the Bible, then you might be doing things wrongly. All right. Some of those conversations were not conversations. They're not for in the now. All right. We need to actually really, really watch it. Thank you so much, Coach Wendy. The No Yelling Challenge, it was indeed, it has helped me model my relationship and parenting journey with my 5-year-old. Wow. Thank you so much, Foster. Oh, Foster was my classmate in secondary school. Thank you so much, Foster, for that review. I love your explanation of the rod of correction. Oh, yes. Thank you so much for that. That's one of the things that we need to begin to learn. Let's read the scriptures to understand it ourselves. Let's not read the scriptures because of what it is that it's just flying up and down. There's a lot of interpretation out there. There's a lot going on. And it's the same way that we're interpreting the scriptures and saying, marriage is for better, for worse, until death do you part, no matter what conditions you find yourself. That's why people are staying in some of these toxic places and then they are dying. And then we're coming back to now, question a lot of things. There are a lot of conversations on a lot of these things. All right. Very, very important. And do not go and raise violent people. See, let me tell you something. The conversation of the kind of husbands or the kind of spouses All right, the kind of spouses that we are using, we are having today is because of the way that these people were raised. I am telling you, no child wakes up, no spouse, no husband, no wife wakes up and becomes an abuser. None. We actually learn it. It's a conditioning. And then you do it and it becomes a norm. Many of the times I found that, yes, Chidima, I found that we use the scriptures against the children a lot. There are a lot of scriptures that says, oh, do not cause your wrath against your children. Don't no, don't aggravate your children to anger. We don't quote it. And the first thing we get to quote is, oh, spare the rod, the rod of correction and all of that. What exactly is the, and for the records, spare the rod and spoil the child is not a Bible quote. All right? It's not in the Bible. The Bible talks about the rod of correction. And what is that rod of correction? That's very important. All right? So it is very, very important that we begin to actually move away from the toxicity we have found ourselves. Taking this challenge is going to really help you to understand quite a lot. There are a lot of the conversation, a lot of conversations that we will not be able to have because our time is up. Trust me, the no yelling challenge is actually a place for you to start, put a lot of things in perspective. Thank you, Jamila. And for those of you who are asking what the Inner Circle is, the Inner Circle is a program that we run annually for parents who really want to be tight on their intentional parenting game. All right. So if you want to be part of the no yelling challenge, put no yelling. I see that my team have put this on. I'm going to pin it on our Facebook community. All right. Put no yelling. Please remember that the 4999 discount ends tomorrow. The moment is midnight tomorrow. It ends and then you get to pay 5999. And it's fine also if you pay 15K, which is going to be when we're getting to the tail end, and it will be fine too. We'll be very glad. My team and I, will be very, very glad. And we're going to give you value for your money anytime, any day. All right. So if you want to be part, of that, please let it be. Just put it there. Thank you, Chidima, for that scripture. Fathers, do not irritate and provoke your children to anger. Do not exasperate them to resentment, but rear them tenderly in the training and discipline and the counsel and admonition of the Lord. That's Ephesians chapter 6, verse 4. All right? You need to actually work on you. Yelling is a big deal. It's not also healthy for both you and your child. Please work on it today. All right. Thank you, Chidi, myself as a pastor's wife that I am. Thank you so much for bringing that scripture, right here. Thank you so much. You can register for the No Yelling Challenge. We'll see you at the challenge on the 1st of May. Thank you and thank you. And trust me, that challenge will change your mindset on yelling itself. Thank you so much for joining me. And I'm sure that I do not have more questions. Inner Circle parents, I see you guys. If you want to register for the Inner Circle, just send us a message or look at the description also on the conversation if you're watching on YouTube. Thank you. Remember, you can catch a replay of this conversation on our YouTube channel. You can also go through our YouTube channel because we have tons and tons of messages in our YouTube channel. If you find value in this conversation today, let me see you share your favorite emojis in TIP. That will be the fire emoji. And that fire emoji is our theme. We love the fire emojis a lot. All right. The Inner Circle parents will produce a lot of fire for us now in no time. Thank you so much for joining me. My name is Wendy Ologe, and I'm the founder of the Intentional Parent Academy. The Intentional Parent Academy is an academy where you learn how to parent. Parenting is learned. I've always believed that parenting is never to be assumed. Parenting is something that we all need to learn. Thank you so much, everybody, for joining me. And shout out to you, Chidima. Chidima was also my classmate. I see a lot of my classmates today live watching me. She's my friend, my classmate. Right? Thank you so much for joining me. Thank you for joining me always. For everybody who is here always on Tuesday at 2 p.m. We don't take it for granted. Thank you for being in church today. This is the TIP Church. Every Tuesday, 2 p.m., you catch us on our YouTube channel. We're here live, delivering to you parenting nuggets. Remember, parenting is about the process and it's about the things you put in. Chidima said, and your in law. I didn't forget that. Thank you so much. Thank you so much for joining me. See you again next Tuesday.